Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Buying a Home webinar in Eindhoven. Can you all hear me? Ludo, do you think they can hear me? Yes, perfect.
I think so, indeed.
Yes. Hi, everyone. This is Giovanna. We're going to start our webinar. For the evening, we're going to talk about a few, well, actually a lot of things about the buying process in the Netherlands. We're going to talk about renting versus buying, the whole process, a bit of a financial. We have a special guest tonight for that as well. And also, we will be able to answer all your questions. So please keep them for the end. We promise we will answer all of them, literally all of them. Just so you know, this session will be recorded and you probably will receive within a few days, I believe even tomorrow, with the presentation as well. Let me click here again. There you go. So this is me. I'm Giovanna. I am from Brazil. I live in the Netherlands for about 13 years. I have a son and a daughter, my two little devils, I call them. I moved here in 2009. I rented places, way too many before I buy actually. And then I bought a house, I renovated everything, I sold the house, and I bought a very old one and renovate everything as well. And as I told you, we have a special guest today, Ewout, a colleague. He's a mortgage advisor. Good evening, Ewout. Nice to have you with us.
Hi, nice to be here as well.
Ewout will talk about the whole process of mortgage. He is Dutch. He has lived abroad, brought a property abroad as well. So he knows the feeling of buying a property out of your own home country. He is a mortgage advisor, worked for a company called Help in Kiezen. You probably heard about it. And after my part of the presentation, talking about the process of buying a house, he will give a little presentation, of course, about the mortgage process of buying a house. And then you can also save your mortgage questions for him at the end. He will also answer the whole, all the questions. Let's start it. So this is our team from Expat Housing Network. Ludo is here with us. My colleague Ludo. We have Katie, Alana, Philip, Rick, and Kimo, and we have a new colleague, Rafaela. She will be in the next presentation, I believe. This is our whole team. We work through the whole Netherlands. We are from everywhere, every different countries. So we are very big expat team. Buying process. So let's start it with a little bit explanation of who we are. So we are not traditional real estate agents. We don't have a house for sale or for renting. We do help you with the whole process of buying and renting. Tonight we are talking about the buying process, but we help with both. But we don't sell houses. We don't take your house for sale. We do have people, know people that do that. So if you need some names, please drop me an email. I will give some names for you that we have working together. Very good real estate people. We don't charge a percentage of the house you are buying. We have a fixed fee. It doesn't matter the price you will buy the house or your budget. It doesn't really matter. And of course, we all know what is to be in a new country and do the whole moving here and there and buy and sell and rent and all of those process. We know that's not easy. But I do believe this is the most easy country I have ever lived. So it was easier than the other ones. So, but it's not easy, definitely. We always, we like to share everything we know about the process. Sharing is caring. So we truly believe in that. And again, I'm not a financial advisor. We do have one today present. So please keep your questions for him at the end. He will answer all of them. We share our opinions and our experiences of the whole process, of course. But at the end, if you have questions that are more towards the financial part or more specific ones, please always ask the mortgage advisor. You have the chance to do so today. So and after all, of course, you can always send an email to Ewout as well if you have other questions regarding the financial part. He will be happy to help you out further. Let's get to know you. Oh, this is the time we do our poll. Let's see if this time it works. Let's start it. It's just a little poll to know. No, Ludo is not going again.
I don't know what it is with the poll, but
No.
been having difficulties lately.
Yeah, so if you could just answer in the chat how old you are and where are you in the process of buying a house, and how long you've been, where are you from? That would be great. Then we get to know you a little bit, so we get to know our public a little bit. That would be great. I will continue further, we'll go further, a little bit of news regarding the Eindhoven, the whole area actually. We know about Eindhoven have a lot of expats. We are from everywhere, and we are coming more and more and more every month. I just read something the other day. The ASML has reached 30,000 employees, which is such a such a big amount from since the beginning. So which is great, of course. A lot of people from the IT area. And here's just a bit of news about Eindhoven not being the most attractive city in the Netherlands. It's not, let's be honest, not the most pretty city we have in this country, but it's a very interesting city. We have many different things to go and to see. So I wanted to point it out another news here, but it's not going through. But I wanted to talk about the news we have from the buying market. The buying market in Eindhoven. I read yesterday that something compared to last year, October last year, the houses went up 14% comparing to the prices from last year, which is a very high percentage. So those were the news I read about the whole Eindhoven area, and that, of course, it's because of the shortness of the houses, of course, and too many of us, too many people buying, not many people selling at the moment, not many houses available. So it makes the market go even a bit more crazy. Let's talk about some news about the that will change this year. I will let Ewout afterwards, when he does the whole mortgage part, go more deep into the national mortgage guarantee. Today is you can buy a house up to 325,000 euros. And from January on, you can buy a house up to 355. NHG gives you a very good interest rates. And of course, there are a bit of exceptions to be able to buy with NHG. You need to be under 35. You need to buy a house that is maximum 355. No, not under 35, actually. Only maximum 355. 400, the below 400 is for the transfer tax. And just one thing I would like to put it here, the purchase price has to be 355, not the price you will get as a mortgage, but the purchase price, a complete purchase price, not only a percentage. So that's NHG gives you access to very low interest rates, really low actually. And in case you lose your job or in case you're not able to work anymore, there is something that will be covered for you if you choose for this. Transfer taxes, that's transfer taxes exception. If you buy a house up to 400K, you have the possibility, if you never bought a house before in the Netherlands, and if you're under 35 years old, you don't have to pay the 2% transfer taxes, which is a very good way to save some money. If you have a partner, again, it has to be the purchase price, not the amount you finance. Be aware of that. If you have a partner, for example, that has 37 and you're 33, for example, you still get the 1% then. So those are the news, something that you can use to get some save a bit more money. 2% makes a huge difference in the whole process. You also get a 2% transfer tax exemption if you buy a house that is completely new, that nobody ever lived it before. So you also get that. Here's a little bit of a comparison regarding rental and buying. So let me just change this because I'm seeing it's over my presentation. So if you own a house, of course, stability is always a good thing to then have a rental contract that you never know what is going to happen in the future. Monthly payments, bill equity, of course, you always, especially if you have a very low interest rate and you bought the house with a good purchase price, you can always, and the way the market is going, growing so fast and going so high, as I told you, 14% from October last year to compared to October this year is a very big amount for people who bought last year. It's an average. It doesn't mean it's all the houses, huh? Just so you know. You can definitely build equity there and have the mortgage interest rate deduction. If you rent a house, rent will keep rising, no tax benefits, no equity being built, no creation of wealth. So those are the difference. We do have here a little example, rental monthly, around 1350 per month. So that will be 16,200. That's not, that is not included internet, all the utilities, internet, water, gas, and so on. And if you buy a house of around 398, interest rates, and get an interest rates of 1.54, monthly payments will be around 886, and the monthly interest that you pay is 496. So actually you're only what you actually have as a let's say that you build equity with 886, and your interest rate, you pay your interest for your interest rate 496. So closing fees to buy this property will be around 19,000. That you, after we did a little bit of a calculation, you'll be saving, if you buy a house on more or less on this value, around 845 per month. We believe that monthly payments are investment and not money that you throwing away, right? Like the rental price. So we are counting the monthly payments as investment, and the monthly interest rate is actually what you are paying for it, because you're always going to be able to make a profit in the house if the market, especially if the market continues on this way. So more or less after 23 months, you're already making a profit, paying your closing fees and making a profit in case you sell the house. Sorry. Let's go further. What you need in savings. This is very important for you to know what you need to be able to get a mortgage and to buy the house. We did a little graph, a little, let's say, chart that you can see what are your fees. Remember, if you are below 35 and you never bought a house before, and the house is maximum 400K, you don't pay the first line, the transfer taxes. But if you're not, of course, you do have to pay. I always tell my clients that more or less what you need to have in savings is around 5% of the purchase price, 4 to 5%, if you are older than 35, and if you already bought a house, or if the house is the value is higher than 400. So that's what you need to have. If you are younger than 35, if you never bought a house before, a house is below 400, then you can count around 3.5%. So you have to pay the notary to make your mortgage deed and your transfer deed. Notaries are that have different prices. So it goes between 600 to 1,100. Transfer deed the same. You have to pay a mortgage advisor or the bank to make your mortgage. You cannot do it by yourself. You do have to pay for people that don't know. Banks also charge a fee to do your mortgage. It's not that because you have a bank account at ABN, for example, that they're gonna make the mortgage process for you for free. No, they charge, just so you know. But they are tax deductible. Mortgage advisor or the bank, they are tax deductible. The basically everything regarding the mortgage is tax deductible, as you can see. Mortgage deed, mortgage broker, and then you also have the appraisal and the NEHG in case you do mortgage. Those are mortgage deductible. You have the real estate. If you hire a typical real estate, they do charge a percentage. I heard last week someone will start charging 2.5%. So maybe we have to make a little, put a little bit up, but I do believe it goes between 1% and 2%. That will be the normal fee for them. As I told you before, we charge a fixed fee. It doesn't matter how much is your budget or how expensive is the house. An appraiser is something that is mandatory for you to have, for you to be able to get a mortgage. And it costs between 650 and 750, but be aware if you need to do renovations or something different, the appraiser might charge you for that and the price can be a little bit higher. Good thing is it's tax deductible. Technical inspector is not mandatory for the mortgage. It costs around 425. I would say here in Eindhoven area, it costs around 375. But just be aware more or less of the price. Interpreter is also mandatory for the notary if you don't speak Dutch. When I say speak, it has to be fluent Dutch, not just understanding what they're talking about it. An interpreter in English costs around 250. Any other language, it might be much higher. Bank guarantee, you also have to pay an amount, and of course 0.7% if you get any HG. Those are the values, and all of those together is around, if you have to pay transfer taxes, 4 to 5% of the purchase price. So that you know more or less what you need in cash. You are only able to finance the purchase price of the house if you have budget, of course, and not what you have to pay to be able to get a house. Where are you in the buying process? So that was my question, one of my questions before. If you ever have visited a house, if you already have made an offer, or where are you, or you're still looking, or you're thinking about it. So if you could answer us in the chat, that would be great. Thank you, appreciate that. This is we made it a little bit of a timeline of the buying timeline, so you can see how more or less how the process goes. So here you can see how they start is doing the search of costs on Funda, and you can see the houses are 99% of the houses, I would say, are on Funda. I always hear a lot about can we see the house, can you have access to the houses before it goes on Funda, and those kind of comments. Yes, I could see them before, actually a lot, about 3 years ago, actually, but not the market the way it is now. What happens is that a lot of rent agents buy real estate, they do put their houses on Facebook pages, or they send a newsletter a few days before it goes on Funda, but not that they call the agents and offer the house. That doesn't happen anymore. The chances are that you have much more offers if you put the house out there for everyone to be able to visit. So you start your search, you do your search, you go to Funda, you make your appointment, you go to the house and you like it very much. Most likely they will give you a deadline to be able to send an offer. Let's say today is Thursday, let's say you see a house today, I believe you have until, I would say, Monday or Wednesday to send an offer. When the offer gets accepted, you have about 1.5 weeks, max 2 weeks to make to have an inspector and an appraiser coming to the house to check if everything is the way it's supposed to be. Remember, appraiser is mandatory. You need to have it to be able to do your mortgage, and a technical inspection is up to you. It depends, of course, on the conditions of the house, and that's why it's very important that you ask for the documents of the house once you make the appointment. There is in those documents you are able to see what the how old is the roof, or if they have any leakage, or if they fix those, or those kind of things. And then from that, you can decide if you need a technical inspection or not. We always advise our clients to have a technical inspection if the house is older than 25, 30 years, if they never had a renovation before, of course, so it's up to you. But those things, appraiser and inspection, you have to do before you sign the purchase agreement. In the meantime, they will send you the purchase agreement, which is the agreement between you and the seller. In that agreement, they will write all the conditions that you put in your offer, and you and the seller will sign, and this purchase agreement will be sent to your mortgage advisor and to the notary. And then after it's sent to your mortgage advisor, after you sign the purchase agreement, you have around maximum 6 weeks to get your mortgage approved, but the mortgage is getting approved around, I would say, I have clients who had approved in 2 weeks, but Ewout can talk about more how long it would take in a few minutes. But in average 4 weeks, it's a good average, I believe. We believe that you get your mortgage approved. After you sign your purchase agreement, let's go a tip. If you're doing that yourself, Always sign the purchase agreement on a Wednesday, a Thursday, or a Friday, because you have 3 working days to still pull out of the deal without paying any penalty. So if you sign it on Wednesday, you have until Monday midnight to get out of the deal without paying any penalty. If you have any doubts or if anything comes wrong, not the way you want it from the technical inspection report or from the appraisal report, then you still have the time to pull out without paying any penalties. Once your mortgage gets approved, everything will be sent to the notary, and the notary will do the final invoice, the final note. This is where all the costs come. You remember those costs, those 5%, 3% that you had to pay. So this is the time you have to pay those. Your mortgage advisor, me, I hope, the notary itself, the translator, what else? All the taxes that you have to pay for the house, NHG if you have one, appraisal, the technical inspector, most likely you have to pay after he's at the house. You have around 14 days to pay that. So that's the time when you pay everything. And then you just need to wait for the day to get your keys to go to the notary. In about an hour and a half before you go into the house, and you do a technical inspection just to be sure that the house is in the same state as it was when you saw it for the first time. And then you move in, you get your keys, you sign the transfer deed, the mortgage deed, you get your keys, and you're going to live in the house. You do your move. You get the keys, and you just move everything. And we put here around 2 months of liability, the end of liability term. I wanna be very clear that this is a very gray zone. A lot of people move in the house and have this idea that the seller have to fix things after they move in, that it may be, it breaks or it doesn't matter what it is. So we put around 2 months. We always tell our clients test and use everything in the house, such an oven, dishwasher, whatever, everything, all the radiators, turn them on, and those kind of things in the first week you move in, because the more you move, the more you live in the house, and things, if something happens, more difficult it is to claim that from the seller. We put around 2 months of liability because you have very nice sellers that will give you the whole assistance if you need to, and you have, I don't want to say terrible ones, but you have the ones that don't care at all. And you do sign that from the day you sign the transfer deed at the notary and the mortgage deed, that the house is your responsibility and is your own risk, and you have to be responsible for. And that's why you also have insurance for. So just a little explanation about the liability. So here are the people you will meet in this process. This is Ewout. I always tell people when they talk to me on intake, even before you talk to me, talk to a mortgage advisor. It's very important that you know your financial power. What is your budget? And also in this conversation may include everything that you have. For example, loans, leasing cars, telephone accounts, everything that you have to pay monthly. So the mortgage advisor knows about all the financial and gives you the right budget and the right way to do the things easy, in the easy way for you to get your mortgage. So even before you talk to someone else about buying a house and help you out with, be aware of everything you need to have your mortgage ready, because once you have your offer approved, things move very, very quickly. In 1.5 weeks, maximum 2 weeks, you're going to have your purchase agreement in hand, and he's going to start work, and so he needs everything ready to go. This is my colleague Alana. Here in the Eindhoven area, you will work with me, but Alana is also one of my colleagues. She will assist you. We will assist you everything, be with you all your doing your whole process of the buying. If it's necessary, we schedule viewings, enjoy your viewings with you as well. We have 2 different packages. I can talk to you a bit further about that. Property search and price research are very important for you to know. The property research is about all those documents I talked to you about it. Take a look of them and see if nothing is wrong with the house. And the very, very important thing that a lot of people don't know about it is a price research. I will explain a little bit further about the price research, and you can see why it's very important for you when you make your offer. We do the notary, find the best notary for you, the best costs, of course. Make sure the appraisal will be in the house in time, the technical inspection as well. And if it's necessary, we join you to all the meetings. Review all the Dutch documents and legal documents together with you and explain to you everything, what you're signing for. That's very important for you to be aware. The appraiser is the one that is going to make the valuation report. Again, it's mandatory for the bank. There's no escape unless you're buying all cash. Then you don't need for sure. But if you need 1% in mortgage, you need a valuation report. So that's how it goes. She will go to the house, take pictures of the house, and prepare the whole report to tell the bank what is the real price, the market price of the house, the real value of the house, and based on that, the bank will give you the mortgage. It has to be an official appraiser, of course. Is an independent party. It works for an association called NEWWI. Also in this phase is where you tell, let's say you buy a very old house and you're willing to renovate. So this is the phase you also tell your agent and the appraiser what you're going to renovate, and they will put everything in consideration and calculate if the house will be, what will be the final value of the house after the renovation and everything. The inspector, the technical inspector, the building inspector. So again, it's not legally required. You don't have to if you don't want to. If it's a house that's very new, there is no need for it. But if you see something different in the documents that you don't really raise a red flag, it's always good to have one and check everything. The report is quite nice, actually. It's a very big report. There's a lot of details, and he or she also take pictures of everything. I always tell my clients to be there with them because you can ask all your questions, and if they find something immediately, they will let you know and tell you what to do and more or less how much it costs to be able to do what is best for you and for the house. In this report, they put also values about it, about what you need to renovate or change in the house. And normally they share the report, I would say, even in one day, and then you can maybe talk to the seller or or your agent to try to negotiate something if something goes wrong, that comes the way it was not supposed to be in the report. Notary is a very important thing for you. They prepare the mortgage deed, the transfer deeds, also mandatory. They will prepare all the documents here in our area. The selling agent they do prepare the purchase contract. For example, in Amsterdam area, you have to go to the notary just to sign the purchase agreement. Here, the selling agent do it. The contracts are quite simple, actually. You just have to be aware of all the clauses that you put in your offer, if they are there, and also if there is no surprising clause in the purchase agreement. So it's a few agents now have some of the agreements in English, but you do have to sign the Dutch one. That's the official one. That's mandatory as well. And also one thing that I like about the notaries, it's not just about the mortgage deed and the transfer deed. They also do a kind of a checkup background, I would say a check background in the house or the property you're buying to see if everything was paid before, if everything was signed correctly, if there's no third part that will claim the house, those kind of problems that you could have. They will register your house in cadastre as well. That's the house land registration. So those are all, and they also will find you a translator to be in the notary, to be at the day of the transfer in the language you need. So that's it is again mandatory for you to have a notary. Now we have the mortgage advice part. Oh, sorry, I step a little bit on your presentation, Ewout. I guess you have to tell me when to move forward, so feel free to do so.
Okay, well, thank you, Giovanna. Well, first of all, also thank you for having me here. Yeah, it's nice to be part of this as well. The reason I'm also part of it, I like to be within the international crowd. I know how it was when I was abroad and I didn't have an insider. So I hope that the two of us can be your insider on this part.
Yes, let's hope
Yes,
for that.
exactly. Well, let me go to the steps that we go through as a mortgage advisor. The steps that we're going to go through normally when people have a first meeting with us as well. We start with a first meeting, just giving the insight. After giving insight, we're going to continue to a service agreement in which you're going to say, okay, it's something that is reachable for me and I feel comfortable with it. After that, we continue and formalize it more in this service agreement. From there on, we will continue and analyze and advise you more in your personal situation, what the possibilities are and what to be aware of. And from there on, we take it over to the administrative process to make sure that everything is arranged correctly and as smooth as possible. If this is done, you become the homeowner at the notary, a thing that Giovanna said before as well a little bit. And we also have the aftercare. And aftercare, you can see it in the widest sense. So let's say you want to buy a second house or a new house, or maybe move abroad, or even in worst cases, somebody would decease or whatever would be financial relevant to you, we can help you with that as well. So these are basically the steps that we're going to go through. In the next slide, we're going to do it in the following. The first step is getting to know each other. So what's the idea? Normally people have an invite with me. So we're going to talk through each other with Teams or just on the office. It's a little bit what you prefer. We get acquainted. For me, it's very important to know what your objectives are, for you to know where I'm coming from. And from there, we're going to look into the facts that what is possible based on your income, what are the buying costs in this situation, monthly cost of the mortgage, different types of loans and rules and regulations that we should not flatten out because every situation is different. It's not just looking at the interest, it's a lot more than that. And the regulations are one of the most tricky parts sometimes in our whole dealing with it. So in the first step, we're going to make sure that the objective that you came for is obtainable, and therefore this is the first time we're going to meet. It will be without any cost, so it's just to see each other, and from there on. On the next slide, what is your budget for a house? It's normally the first question that people are asking me. What I can tell you is how much you can borrow based on your income and also the credits. Credits are definitely involved. So if people say, I will arrange the money and I'll borrow it somewhere else, be aware that this is a loan as well, and this is part of your cost. So therefore, a bank will give you less to borrow. Savings, of course, add to your budget, but they don't add to how much you can borrow. It's not that if people have a lot of their own money that they can borrow more. So it's part of your budget. Be aware that you have some savings, of course, behind, just in case things come up in the house itself. And next to that, one of the most important things is also the appraisal value of the house. Nowadays, the value of the house is definitely not set by the asking price. It can be much higher. It can also be sometimes lower. This is a question that we normally get. And the other way around, I'm only a financial advisor and I have no idea about the value of a house. And this is really where it comes into Expat Housing Network. Basically, we need it because if we don't know the value of a house, I cannot say how much you can borrow, because even if you can borrow, let's say 1 million, if the value of a house is only 400,000, you will not get more than 400,000 euros. So also be aware with overbidding and that sort of things. And this is what really makes me happy also with the fact of the cooperation with Expat Housing is basically that we know what the appraisal will be before actually people sit on my table, and we have to make sure that we get the right mortgage for them. So it's almost essential nowadays. The three parts of this definitely determine how much your budget will be and how much you can get from a bank. To the next slide. One of the things that also we run into a lot is that people want to renovate. Again, the value is again important because the buying price does not have to be the appraisal value. If you have a buying price in this example, let's say 400,000 euros, and you want to renovate it for, let's say, 50,000 euros, it doesn't mean that it adds value for 50,000 euros. It might add value for about 35,000 euros. So this means that the maximum loan based on the value of your house will be 435,000 euros. But the bank wants proof that you're actually putting in 50,000 euros into the house, because else the value is not qualified as 435. So you will need an additional 15,000 euros of your own means as well. again, what is the value? And again, we will need a good appraisal value in this as well. And it's better to know it before you bought, because this is not a term that you can drop a buy on. So you have to know it a little bit beforehand. All renovations will be held by the bank. So by the time you get your house, you go to the notary, you can only get the 50,000 if you have really like invoices of constructors and that sort of things. So value is important before buying. That's one thing I'm really convinced of. In the next slide is also a thing that is really interesting. And again, your budget, but also your own means are part of this. In this scheme, I hope you can see it a little bit. I used a few interest dates from last week. In the top, you see the colors represent 5 years, 10 years, 15, up to 30 years fixed. So that means you have a running period of 30 years for a mortgage, but you fix an interest. The longer you fix an interest, a higher an interest rate can be. This is just an example of one of the banks. But as you can see, the NHG that Giovanna also talked just before represents the lowest interest. That has to do with that the bank is qualifying it on risk based. So not only if you fix it for a short term or for a long term, but also the risk based is really important. NHG is basically covering the mortgage that in case you cannot afford it anymore and the bank has to sell the house, they will always get their money. That also means if you only need about, let's say, 65% of the value of a house, you get a discount. So in this example, let's take the 30 years fixed. If you borrow below 65% with this bank, you would get 1.91%. If you need up to 100% of the value of the house, you will get 2.38%. So as you see, a bank rewards you by putting in your own means in case they have less risk. And also here, loan to value, you can never get more than the value of a house. You do see the 6% though, there's 106% on the top bottom right, I should say. This has to do with energy. Nowadays, we have a lot of things to do about isolating the house and that sort of things. And if it qualifies for that, in some cases, you can even borrow a little bit more. This is not for the buying price, but it's to modify your house to solar panels and that sort of things. So in some cases, this is possible too. But as you see, it's not just what is the interest rate. The interest is constructed based on how long you fix it and also how much you borrow compared to the value of this house. Again, to the next slide. The step 2, you have to find a house and secure it. With the help, for instance, of a buying broker, which almost is essential nowadays, not only just to check also the deeds that are there, but also to get in between. I noticed that a lot of the brokers don't take it seriously if you come without. So to be honest, 5 years ago it was different, but nowadays without a broker, it's pretty hard actually to get your own house. They take it seriously when you have a buying broker because they know that you're serious about the purchase. So you get the house, you check the form, the buying contract, you send it and you buy the house. From there on, we're going to make it more personal, and then I step in again. And in the next slide, we're going to take 3 steps, I always like to say. So basically, I want to filter it, starting with the wishes that people have. First of all, the perception of affordability. Even if we say you can afford a thing, it's always up to yourself how much you want to afford on a mortgage. How you're going to set up a mortgage is also a little bit of a choice. So therefore, your perception of what you think is affordable is basically leading for me how to make your construction ideal for you. We need to clarify the personal situation. A person that is alone or has a big family is different. Also, when you move maybe abroad in 5 years, or maybe even get an extra mortgage for a second house in the future, all these things I need to know to make a better combination of the wishes and eventually to choose the right product. Your options within the rules of the bank are also important. If a person is living in the Netherlands just for a month, it forms a problem with some banks, and with other banks, there's no problem. I can filter it. I know those sort of things. It doesn't mean you have one option, but the more conditions we have, the less options there will be. But just to think of it, we have about 40 different banks in the Netherlands. So there will always be one with your wishes, but maybe not the combination of all of those. Based on your wishes and the possibilities, I'm going to give you some facts of these possibilities and tailored to your wishes and possibilities that you have. So that means if people want a certain insurance, depending on your age, the health and that sort of things, we're going to select one. The same with the bank. Do you want to pay it off as much as you can? It's possible with this bank, and the other bank has restrictions. So I'm going to look not only to the lowest interest rate, I'm going to look at the terms that they will have as well. So we're going to look to the best product based on the price and quality. It will be the same interest as a bank can offer. The idea that a bank might have better interest is not possible. It's determined by law. There's just an interest. You can just Google it. Only the things behind it and what happens afterwards is also important. Just to give you an example, if they start with a higher interest, it might be after lowering the complete mortgage a little bit by paying off a little bit, that you get a discount on the interest. This is something you don't see in the beginning, but it will happen during the mortgage term. So these are really differences that might save you up to €1,000 just to start with a different type of bank than the one with the cheapest interest. Once you choose the product, because the idea of helpen kiezen, the translation literally is helping you choose, what we're trying to do is just to present you the right choices. This presentation, everybody here is smart enough to make a choice, only you need somebody to help you making this right choice. So therefore, what we try to do, we try to give you a setup so you actually have the possibilities to choose. Once you made a product choice, we can make it concrete, and there will be the administrative processing of it. We're trying to complete all the forms that you might need. We are trying to oversee all deadlines, or we will keep them into account, so there will be no problems there. And of course, the final check and completion at the notary. So from the beginning till the end, we will be there. And this way, by repeating basically the things, starting with the wishes to making it small to your product, we try to make it step by step complete. On the next slide, here is an example what we do as well. In this example, I want to show you a little bit that we have a few banks that we're going to put next to each other, not only based on the interest, but also some terms. These are just a few ideas that I just started with, but every person is different, so every comparison is different as well. But based on will help you not only to look at the interest, but also the terms and to make the decision of yourself. Okay, to the next slide. Once it is all done, we're going to complete the mortgage application. So all things come together. You get the offer of the bank. We collect all data. And then I can only congratulate you and yeah, stand ready if you ever need me again. So basically, those are the steps that we go through if we have the meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And we're going to continue. And Ewout, feel free, if there is something now in the presentation that you'd like to say, please feel free to just interrupt me and say it.
Sure.
We put together some frequently asked questions, so you might have it. What happens if you want to leave the country after several years, for example? Option 1, 2, and 3, keep your home but have mortgage costs, of course. Rent out your home, you need permission for the bank. That's from some banks. You might have to ask permission to do so, or the bank might tell you to sell the house. Sell your home without any penalty and or capital gains, of course, if something if you have to leave. In this market, I would say if you live here for 2 or 3 years, you probably will already sell your house with some capital gains for sure. Can I rent out my house or a room? Not allowed with a residential mortgage. To be able to rent a house, you need to have a mortgage of buy and let. Would you like to say something about that, Ewout, regarding the mortgage for changing to residential to a buy-to-let mortgage?
Yeah, the thing is that a buy-to-let mortgage is more a business-like type of mortgage, so there are possibilities as well, but you cannot just switch from one mortgage type to another one. This is really normally based on a different second house.
So you have to terminate one mortgage and make a new one.
Yeah.
So there you have it. If you want to actually rent your house, only a room is allowed for 2 people without a permit, not allowed for some areas. We put the website here in the presentation because if you receive the presentation, it depends on the area, depends on the city. You are allowed, if you live in the house, of course, to rent the room for a maximum amount of people. So you have to check where you live and see what are the municipalities, what the municipality ask, what kind of permit you need to do so. What's the typical amount I should overbid? So here we are talking about what Ewout said before about the market value. And I told you I would come back to this. We see a lot of people. I actually saw a few weeks ago, a client told me he was in a viewing and the agent told him that he needed to overbid. I think it was about 10 to 20% above the asking price immediately if he wants to have the house. So really be careful about that, because as you can see in the example we put it here, we put an asking price of 400K. We did our price research and we know that the market value of the house is more or less 430. And our client ended up buying the house for 460. So if he would bid the 20% as they told him at the viewing, it would be way more than that. So that's where the overbid you have to be very careful with that, and you need to know the real market value, the real worth of the house to be able to do your bidding. So the market value in this case is 430. So in this case, that's what, if you have a budget, of course, that's what you get for the mortgage. So that's what it is, the value that will be in the appraisal report. And if you are, as you can see, the purchase price were 460. It means that the 30,000 different, it has to be paid in the notary in the day, a little bit before you get your keys. You have to pay that in cash. You'll not be able to get that from the bank. But just this is more for you to understand where does the whole overbid come from. I do notice that here in the Eindhoven area, I would say even into Den Bosch, around Den Bosch as well, a lot of houses, the market value is between 15 to 25K above the asking price. Not all of, I'm not saying it's all of them, but we see that quite often. Some real estate put the price quite low to be able to have more people come into the house. And then that's where the whole talk about overbid comes. And some other agents just put actually the market value or just a little bit below. So people are able to overbid just a little bit. But let's show you the other slide so you can understand a little bit better. Another different asking price at 380. Again, the market value was 430, and then you can see the difference, the percentage actually. So the percentage of the purchase price, yes, it was 21%, but the market value was actually much higher. So you only paid 7.5% above. So that was a big difference when someone comes to the viewing and tell you about the overbid 20 or 30 or 15% above the value. So please be careful with that. And that's why price research is very, very important. What is the 10% deposit do I need to complete? So the 10% is the bank guarantee. It's also mandatory. You probably will see on the Fundo advertisements if you go into the end. Normally they do write that over there. It will be on your contract. That's the fee in case you pull out of the deal. For example, if you send an offer without financial clause and you don't get your mortgage approved, you will have to pay 10% of the purchase price to the seller. If you have the financial clause, and for some reason, and you got the mortgage approved, but for some reason you don't like the house anymore, you just don't want to buy anymore, you will have to pay the 10% bank guarantee. You are protected for the financial clause, not just because you don't like the house anymore. So that's basically what the fee is. It is mandatory. You can pay with your own cash if you like, or you can borrow that amount from the bank. What was the percentage, Ewout, that you have to pay to be able to borrow the 10% bank guarantee? So 1%.
Yeah, no, it depends. Yeah, normally it's 1%, but
1%, right? The purchase price. Yeah.
Yeah, but we have actually less, so it can be cheaper as well.
Even better.
Yeah.
So there you go, a tip. Can be cheaper. But it's mandatory. You do have to complete that, of course, unless you don't need a mortgage whatsoever. It's a down payment for the purchase price. It's agreed on the purchase price, as you can see. It's 10% of the purchase price, can be used to cover the penalties, as I said. This is about us. What are our fees? So we have two different packages, the smart package and the complete package. There are different things in both packages. You can also see them on our website. Feel free to reach out if you need any explanation about those packages. You will receive the presentation, so you can click on them and analyze a little bit better. Here is for Ewout. This is about your fees.
Yeah, we also have fixed fees to make it easy. Some take longer than others. So new mortgage, starter mortgage is 2,700 euros. No extra fees added like VAT or that sort of things. Explain files really means if it becomes more difficult, but it will always be discussed before. So therefore those costs won't be part of us. Like the entrepreneur, we don't have them. Life insurances are also without any things that we earn on it. It's always a one-time fee. So if people would like an extra life insurance or a second one, it's a one-time fee as well. All fees deductible because you need them to get a mortgage. So therefore the government pays for you about 40% of the fees that we have.
Good to know. That's always good. Yeah. What impact does COVID-19 have on the housing market? So I get this question a lot. So I would say literally none. So far, we saw a difference at the beginning of 2020. 2020, when everything started. We saw a little bit that the people were, I would say, just a little bit afraid of buying, thinking that the market would completely go down or something like that. It was completely the opposite. After a few months, people decided that being locked up in an apartment of 30 square meters was not what they wanted anymore, or they couldn't stay in their houses for too long anymore because many reasons. So a lot of people start to renovate it and start to sell it and buy houses. So there is a shortness of housing in the market in the Netherlands. You all know about that. We don't see a difference in the market. It's just the market is just growing. I know now with the lockdown coming up, I believe it will come up eventually with those high numbers. There might be what I see changing already this week is just the viewings might be a little bit more difficult for you to get it now because there was no measures before everyone could come to a house, and now they're going to choose about, I'd say, 20 to 30 people to come in different times, and that will be it. And that might be difficult to get a viewing, but regarding the values going up or down, we don't see any impact. Maybe a little bit, I hope it slowed down a little bit. Instead of growing 14%, it grows like 9 or 8, but it's still, we don't see anything bad coming for the next few years. So we only see actually, it's getting worse and worse for people to buy a house. So no bad, nor prices going down or anything like that. This is some very high price that we can see from I was comparing this presentation from last year when we beginning to give the online ones, and I believe the price was like 380 or something, or 375, and now it's like a year before it was like 420 an average. It's so high, it's so different. So this is the average house pricing in Eindhoven. The source is the Association of the Real Estate, so it's a very good source. So you can see more or less for the prices that the house were sold in Eindhoven area. It's quite high. It keep growing. So good luck to all of us that have to buy a house, right? That's basically what it is. But that's just for you to have an idea about the whole market and how it's growing. And there is no news or anything that is supposed to crash or something like that. So, which I believe is also a good thing. If you're able to buy a house, you know you are investing in a good thing. And in the future, if you need to sell it, you will make a profit, or at least will pay everything you put it on. So that's a good news, I believe. Does work with us add value? I would say yes, of course, it always does. I truly believe in what I do and what my colleagues do. We really care about people finding a home, being happy where a place where they can really be happy and build memories. It's quite nice when we go to a last inspection with the clients and see the house and see them very happy and ready to make new memories. It's very nice. So I do believe it makes a lot of difference having someone to support you every step of the way. It can be very hard sometimes. I have clients who were able to buy a house in one visit, and I have clients who bought it after 50 visits, viewing 50 houses. So it's a very hard process. So having someone to back you up all the time is very, very important. So I do believe we do add value. And also, as Ewald says before, they do take offers more serious when you have an agent, because they know we have checked everything. They know your financial advisor have checked everything. So they can have a clear deal and everything goes well for them, for the seller, for you, and for everyone. So I truly believe in what we do, especially because we are expats. We know the whole process of being abroad, and it can be challenging. Oh, I always forget to click on the next slide. Selling age take offers more serious, as I said before. We can take something. Oh, sometimes we can book viewings when it's no longer possible. It is true. A lot of agents, selling agents, they do have viewing spots on the daily viewings just for agents. So we are able sometimes to do that. We support you reviewing all the Dutch legal documents, which is very important, especially when you don't know the language. Help define market value to the market date. That's the price research that you sometimes don't have access to. Make you aware of all the regulations and rules, and make sure you don't make the same mistakes we have made ourselves when we bought houses. Your experience. Oh, that was about, again, another poll that is not working. So I would appreciate if you give your opinion and on the presentation, if you like it, if you were able to help you. And again, if you have more questions, just let us know. Q&A, Ludo, I leave that to you.
Thank you very much. Well, at the moment, actually, we don't have any questions in the Q&A. So this would be the perfect time for our attendees to put the questions in the Q&A, either for Giovanna or for Ewald, of course.
Yes, for both of us. Feel free to ask your questions if you still have questions about it.
If there's anything pending that you would like to know, this is the moment.
Yeah, this is the moment. Ewald, I do have a question. I always talk about how people should calculate their incomes to have just an idea of how much they can get as a mortgage. Are you able to answer that, to give them an idea before even before they talk to you, for example?
Sure. Yeah, it's always the more people make, actually, the more you can borrow. Because basically you have to think of it that banks are looking what you're qualified to afford. And just simply buying a bread is just as expensive, whether you make 100,000 euros or less. So the idea is, if you start with a lower income, it starts about 3.5 times your annual income gross, and it can go up to almost 5 times your gross income. So normally it's advisable not to go beyond 4.2 times your annual income. That's, I think, a good direction to have.
There you go. You see, thank you, appreciate it.
Alrighty, so we do have some questions coming in.
There you go.
I have a question from Enno. This is a question for you, Giovanna. The question is it possible in Eindhoven to buy the land and the building separately?
You
or
mean,
is this sold separately always?
Oh, yeah. So far, I never came across of ground lease property. Maybe is that what you mean? In Eindhoven, I never came. I saw one house once in Noonan that there was a ground lease, which means that you buy the house and you rent the ground where the house is built. Or maybe do you mean buy a plot and build a house yourself?
I think maybe both, in the sense that
in Eindhoven, no. In Eindhoven, I never saw a ground lease case. Only in Noonan, a few houses, very few, only there. But it is possible to buy a plot and build your own house. Yeah, it's always possible, definitely.
Okay.
It will be costly though, but it's possible.
Exactly. Then I have a question from SY. Here she asks, so to buy a house, the minimum amount of money I need would be the expenses, which takes up to 4 to 5% of the purchase price, plus the down payment of 10%. Is that correct?
Well, the 10%, Eval, do you want to answer that or?
Sure. Yes, because the down payment you don't need. The 10% is a thing that also is done by the bank guarantee, so you don't need that. So basically, you just need the additional cost, like the notary, like the cost of the mortgage, and overbidding in case you really overbid too much. So therefore, there's not really, the 4 to 5% should be enough. But it again depends. If you have the 2% taxes, it goes rapidly. So if you manage to are below 35 years old and buy below 400,000 euros. It saves 2% already.
Yeah, then you can overbid.
Yeah, so that's definitely something. Yeah.
I always tell my clients it also depends the area. There are a few areas in Eindhoven region, in Eindhoven itself, or in the cities around that you do have, unfortunately, to overbid and quite a lot to be able to get a house. There are other areas that you don't have to overbid too much. It's not because of the area it's better or it's not better or crime or anything like that. It's just because there is a different schools, for example, or the houses are much newer, or it's a big expat population and people want to be near to that to the expats, or you see that's the different. It really depends on the area, and then it might be that you need more, or only the 100% mortgage will be enough. So it really depends.
Okay, perfect. Thanks very much. Then we have a question that is for you, Ewout. How important is it to have a permanent working contract?
Yeah, now there's several options as well. If you don't have a permanent working contract, then you can have the intention to get one after this period. This is good enough for us. We consider it a permanent contract as well. Even if you don't have that, but you're a flex worker, sort of say, we can have the average of the last 3 years even. And in some cases, we actually have the exceptions, but this is mainly medical. Those people can get done everything nowadays. We just have to think of it. You can get a mortgage now. Okay, that's exaggerated. But normally, if you have 3 years working experience in the Netherlands, we can use that as well. You have to have work right now. That's something that is really needed because we have to prove that it's also for the future. Well done. But like I said, most people start with 1 year contract and then get the intention on a fixed one after it, and that's good enough.
Perfect. Thank you. Then last question, I think, oh, never mind. It always happens. When I say last question, then boom, another one pops up. But I have a question for both of you. We'll start with you, Giovanna.
Yeah.
Do our services just extend to Eindhoven, or do we also provide services throughout the whole Netherlands?
Throughout the whole Netherlands. We have colleagues everywhere. So they can help if you, for example, decide to buy a house in Utrecht or Amsterdam, or depends on Groningen even. We have colleagues around, and then it will be, I would, let's say, pass you your account to a colleague in the area. So then you have better service, and you know the agents as well. So it'll be better for you. But we do help you out through the whole Netherlands. Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. How about you, Ewout?
Yeah, for us, it's well, in that way, we do it also on the whole country. My last mortgage I just had done today was actually Amsterdam. So therefore, nowadays with teams, yeah, it's open for the whole country.
Perfect. Cool. Then I have a question from Rakshay, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Here she says, I'm 30 years old and I have bought a house already in 2020, which I am selling now. So I did not get an advantage of the 2% transfer tax. I want to buy another house. Am I eligible to save that 2%? I think that's for you, Giovanna.
No, that's for Ewout.
Definitely
for Ewout. I will pass the bomb to him.
No, actually, yes, you are. Because if you didn't get it yet, then you're still you can still get the 2% because you're still regarded as a starter in that way. If you didn't get it yet, you still are obliged. Yeah, you're willing to get it. Yeah.
So good news.
Yeah.
Yeah. Indeed.
Great news. Yes.
All right, then we're going to move on to a next question from an anonymous attendee. He or she is a PhD student with a contract with the university and is actually below 35 years old. Is it possible to get a mortgage with my condition as well? And how hard is it to answer without knowing in detail? She says, I know it's hard to answer without knowing in detail, but I would like to know the possibility.
Yeah, now as well, there are also possibilities. That's actually the good thing. Again, not every bank will be open to it. Depends a little bit what you're doing as well, what you're earning, how long your contract will be. But there are some possibilities as well, because PhD normally also gives you a good view in the future. So it's limited, but I see possibilities, definitely.
There are always, indeed, with the amount of mortgage lenders that we have, there's always someone who's willing to lend.
May I add something to that? I already had 4 PhD clients from the TU. So
well, there you go.
It was possible for them. It should be possible for you.
Exactly. Okay, then we are at our final question now from Anil again. Does an expat employee with a permanent contract need to wait for a period of time to be eligible for a mortgage, or can they immediately apply for it? Also for you, Ewout.
Yeah. No, definitely. Again, also the question will also be there. Which bank? Some banks don't mind. If you're here for 1 day, that's enough. So as long as you're past the probation period of the first month or the first 2 months normally, then you can get a mortgage. Some banks do require 1 year, but then you just ask the wrong bank. So basically what we're going to do, your situation again and looking in that way, and definitely plenty of banks are open for it. Yeah.
Cool. All right, that was it.
I do have a question. Sorry, just because you said it was the last one. I do have a question for Ewout. I have a question for you. I had a client once that it was a new. He just came to the Netherlands. He didn't want to rent. Well, he was renting for a few months, and then he wanted to buy it right away. And I remember at the end, I transferred him to a colleague because he bought it in another city. But I remember he wanted to know if he could use his payslips from his home country to get the mortgage here, or to add something to the mortgage. It's that a possibility when people just arrive, for example? Does that add value? Does that make it different for them to get the mortgage?
Depends. Yes, in some cases it does. But the thing is, if it's not in euros, it's sometimes really difficult. Okay. And if they're self-employed, it's really difficult.
Yeah.
So then I would say no, actually. Yeah. Okay. But sometimes it does provide a little bit extra wage to showing what people are able to make.
Okay. So I guess that was the last question now. Ludo.
Indeed. Cool.
Wait a second. Let me just to inform you that we're going to have another webinar in December about if you want to buy a new build. Inform a little bit more about that, because it's a whole different scenario. So feel free to join that webinar as well. And of course, schedule a free intake with the both of us, me and Ewout. I would like to say thank you so much, Ewout, for being here. It was very helpful. If you click on our image, you can see our email address and everything. You're going to receive this presentation, the video and everything, so you can have our contacts. If you still have questions, if you forgot something, feel free to let us know. We'll be happy to help. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Ewout. Thank you, Ludo, for helping me out one more time. And yeah, have everyone a very nice evening. And I hope we meet soon.